Good evening, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us for tonight's celebration. We are excited to be here, here at the end of our first ever YMCA Changemakers Institute. We know that this summer has been a summer unlike any other summer we've experienced in our lifetimes, at least. But we are incredibly grateful that you joined us for this journey and that you took it upon yourselves to work in your communities to not just make a change, but to create a movement for impact and belonging and building relationships across your neighborhoods, your communities, your schools, and all of the other local organizations that you have reached out to and impacted through the work you put into your initiatives. We know that it has been a long and winding road, and we know that it will continue to be that way as you all continue to work on your projects in the coming weeks and months. And we are excited to move forward that way with you. Tonight, we are here very briefly just to celebrate the work that you've done, to hear from some folks who know how important the work that you're doing is and want to recognize it, and to also provide you one last measure of inspiration as you continue to lead your communities and as you continue to deal with all of the challenges that our states and country and world are facing as we move forward into a fall that will also be very different than we've ever experienced. Tonight, we want to make sure that you know how much we appreciate everything that you've done. One of the reasons why we started this institute was because we recognized that as a youth development organization, the Y needs to do more, not just to put you all in places where you can train to be leaders, but where you can actually become leaders and actively work to change a lot of the institutional, organizational, and societal barriers that have been put up and put in place to stop you. That's not an easy mission to accomplish. It's also not easy to think about some of the big problems facing the world. When we're talking about the UN's Sustainable Development Goals, we're talking about very big concepts, things that can seem tough to tackle when you're just one person in one community. But what we hope you've discovered through this process is that not only can you have a huge impact in a very small place on one of those issues, but that your impact will ripple out and help you or help others be just as inspired to continue that the work that you've done. And before you know it, your one small change has turned into an entire ocean's worth of impact, not just based on what you did, but the passion that you've inspired in other people to find the same amount of action and engagement that you put into yours. So know that this is not the end of what you're doing. This is just the end of the beginning, as Churchill once said. This is about the end of your training and the end of the first round of change-making leaders that the Y wants to work with. We know that this program and this institute is going to continue and is going to evolve in the coming months and years as the Y learns from the experiences that you all gave us this summer and works to make this even more powerful, even more accessible, and even more impactful as we move forward. So thank you so much for joining us in what has been really a huge national experiment to make this happen. I did want to recognize, though, over the past 2 weeks, we've had over 100 of you join us for panel presentations to YMCA and community leaders from around the country. And I just wanted to shout out how incredible it was, the work that you have done over these last 2 weeks. We had over 200 presentations, not just ones that were given via panel, but were also written and recorded. Those 200 presentations represented 14 of the UN's 17 Sustainable Development Goals. So it wasn't like you were all working on the same thing. You were doing a wider range of projects that impacted all different pieces of your communities. These projects were occurring in 30 different states. They were occurring in urban communities. They were occurring in rural areas. They were occurring in states that are impacted very heavily by COVID. They're occurring in states that haven't been impacted as much, but are dealing with a lot of the economic issues. They were responding to a lot of the racial injustice that we've seen highlighted this summer, and not just responding to it, but driving the movement forward to ensure that never happens again. All the work that you have done this summer was showcased, and it was showcased to over 50 panelists from 45 different YMCAs in 40 different states. So YMCAs as far as Pierre, South Dakota, the Cheyenne River Reservation, Honolulu, Hawaii, all the way up in Portland, Maine, all the way down to St. Petersburg, Florida, and all the way up to Duluth, Minnesota. You guys were showcased around the country. And I want you to know that after 2 weeks of these panels, we've had more Y leaders reach out to us than ever before asking, how do we keep this moving forward? We got a question in the chat, will this be available again next year? And the answer is, it won't just be available next year, it's going to be growing around the country. So we're going to be evolving this based on all of the experiences that you guys have given us, the feedback that we're going to get, and the inspiration that you've given to all of these Y leaders around the country. This movement will continue to grow. We don't know what it's going to look like specifically, because we want to make sure that the next time we do this, whether it's this fall or if it's locally with Ys or if it's around the country again, that we are even more prepared to resource you and to provide you with the tools you need. This year it was kind of, we were reacting to an environment that we didn't expect. In the future, this is going to be exactly what we want the Y to do, and I think you're going to hear that from some of our speakers tonight. That this is not the end of our engagement. Just like I said earlier, it's just the beginning of the end of what we're doing next. So thank you all again. For those of you who spoke, your presentations were passionate, your presentations were thoughtful, your presentations and your initiatives made them think twice about what is possible with young people in their communities. So often we underestimate what you're capable of. And I think right now, as tough as it is for you all to engage, you all have gone above and beyond what so many people expected. So I wanted to kind of showcase this giant screen of all the work you've done to showcase what it was you accomplished, not just the last 2 weeks, but the last two and a half months. So thank you for that. But right now, I actually want to toss it over to someone who's been joining us for all of our calls, or most of our calls these past summer, and that's Dorcas Olatunji from Delaware, who will introduce our first speaker for tonight's celebration.
Thank you so much, Derek. I am really excited to be here and tell you all about our incredible speakers that we have tonight. Very first, we have Kevin Washington, a 40-year-old YMCA professional. Kevin Washington is the 14th person and first African-American CEO to lead the Y in the United States. He came to the YMCA, or the YMCA of the USA, in February 2015 from the YMCA of Greater Boston, where as president and CEO from 2010 to 2014, he expanded membership and access by reducing rates, increasing diversity and engagement among the board of directors to better reflect the community, and implemented a childhood education quality initiative that benefits thousands of children and families throughout Eastern Massachusetts. I had the honor of meeting him last March at the Youth Advocacy Days. Now you get to hear from him. Please join me in welcoming our YMCA of the USA CEO, Kevin Washington.
Good evening, everyone, and greetings from Philadelphia in my record room. This is Kevin Washington, President and CEO of the YMCA of the USA. And as the Changemakers Institute draws to a close, I want to thank you for making the time and effort to participate. You are making an investment in yourselves, as well as the future of our communities and our country. You are the change makers we need for the communities we want. The change makers we need for the communities we want. Communities where everyone, no matter who they are or where they come from, gets the support they need when they need it to reach their full potential. You know, this belief is at the heart of the Y's commitment to America. Developing new generations of changemakers will create communities we all want to live in. When I announced the commitment to America, I said my vision was that the Y would be known as the organization that gives young people the space and support they need to follow their passions, advance their ideas, and act on what's important to them. That the Y will become the platform for empowering young people to lead positive change. This Changemakers Institute was exactly what I had in mind. I want to thank Derek and his team for putting it together. You know, I have read through the list of your individual Changemaker initiatives. I'm impressed, inspired, and incredibly optimistic about the future. Because of you, there will be better access to healthy food in North Carolina, increased walkability and pedestrian safety in New York and New Jersey, more young people registered to vote in Texas, and greater equity for LGBTQ students in California. Again, thank you for all the time and effort you've put into this. You're certified changemakers now, and I am excited to see where you go from here. Please let us know how the YMCA can help. We are committed organizationally to elevating your voice. Stay safe, be well, and please take care of yourselves. Thank you.
I always love listening to President Washington's speeches because they truly are moving. And he is really correct in saying that you are the change makers we need for the communities that we want. The YMCA is truly has incredible people and resources available to you. And next, I'm really excited to introduce our next speaker to you all, Senator Cory Booker. Senator Cory Booker believes that the American dream isn't real for anyone unless it's within the reach of everyone. Cory has dedicated his life to fighting for those who have been left out, left behind, or left without a voice. Cory served as the Newark mayor from 2006 to 2013. During his tenure, the city experienced economic growth on a scale that hadn't been seen since the 1960s. In addition, under Cory's leadership, overall crime declined, affordable housing and green spaces massively expanded, city services were made more efficient, and educational opportunities increased. As New Jersey's junior senator, Cory Booker brought an innovative and consensus-building approach to tackling some of the most difficult problems facing New Jersey and our country. He has emerged as a national leader in the effort to fix our broken criminal justice system and end mass incarceration, helping to craft the most sweeping set of criminal justice reforms in a generation, the First Step Act, which came into law in December 2018. Please join me in welcoming Senator Cory Booker.
Hi, I'm Cory Booker, and I want to congratulate the Changemakers for completing this program, and of course, always give gratitude to the Y for holding great programs like this. We are at a point in our nation where the urgency of change can be felt in wider and wider circles. And in many ways, we know we come from a history where change often didn't come from the halls of power in Washington, let's say. They always came from change makers, often in the grassroots, working for, demanding, pressing for that change. Every great movement in our country, from abolition to the suffrage movement, to the civil rights movement, to the LGBTQ movement. This is the time that we need to understand that this history in our nation has been people standing up, rising up, speaking up, and working to make that change happen. And the other amazing thing, if you know our history like I know you do, is that young people have always been at the center of the change. We just buried John Lewis, one of America's great heroes of his era and ours. He was a man in his young years began to make that change, to not be afraid of getting in good trouble. Well, I hope you all know your own power, that you have in your abilities the ability to change this nation and this world. The most common way people give up their power is not recognizing they have it in the first place. So I hope that you feel empowered to go out on whatever the issue is that drives you, whatever the love of others that sustains you, that you get involved right now in being that change maker that you already are, but just must make it so. So thank you so much. I wish you all the best. This nation, this world needs you. It needs your power. It needs your light. It needs your love. Thank you.
Really incredible remarks as well. Senator Cory Booker accurately described the incredible movements and people that make the changes that we demand to happen. Even describing the late and honorable John Lewis's legacy, he encouraged you to follow his legacy in making good trouble. Our next speaker, I am so excited to announce to you all, is someone that I've recently become a friend with, is Dustin Liu, the UNA's USA Youth Observer. Earlier this month, the United States Association of the USA, the UNA USA, announced Mr. Dustin Liu as the 9th annual UNA USA Youth Observer to the United Nations. Liu is currently a candidate for a master's in education at the Harvard Graduate School of Education. He was selected from a competitive pool of more than 200 applicants of across the United States. In this role, Liu will connect with young people to work with the UN and represent youth voices at the UN General Assembly and at other events throughout the year. As the youth observer, in his words, he hopes to engage and build youths in opportunities and support their identities as global change makers. He also says that he strongly believes that it's through active participation in social change efforts that our capacity to make change develops. Every individual has the gift and strength that can push us toward the UN's SDGs. He looks forward to using his platform as the youth observer to uplift the narratives and recognize the great work by youths from across the United States. He says together, he believes that we can build a better world. Liu currently holds a BS in Industrial and Labor Relations from Cornell University, where he served as a student trustee on Cornell's Board of Trustees and became a Fulbright grantee. We are so excited to introduce to you the Youth Observer, Dustin Liu, to tonight's celebration.
Thank you so much for those kind introductions. I feel so lucky to join you all on this celebration. I wish I could see your faces so I could honor each of you on this call. I mean, it just sounds like you folks have been busy this summer doing some great work. So as you heard, my name is Dustin Liu, and I am currently serving as the 9th U.S. Youth Observer to the United Nations, a position that engages young Americans in the work of the UN and to encourage youth change-making across the United States. And I just have to say that you folks are as much as a youth observer as I am. I am just so impressed by the work that you folks have done. I wanted to take some time to share what a change maker means to me. To me, a change maker stands firmly in the gap between our current reality and a better world, and looks to move us towards that better world. A changemaker has a bias towards action and is willing to think about creative ways we can mend that gap. And a changemaker is part of a larger community, a larger movement of individuals committed to making a difference. And you all are absolutely changemakers. Over the past few months, you have been exploring these change-making competencies, from advocacy training to exercising creativity and socio-emotional skills, to engaging policymakers and curating this network of peers and colleagues. This has been an incredible launchpad to continued engagement towards realizing the world that we can build together. I think it is so important to realize that change making is not always easy. The global goals include wicked challenges, such as issues of climate change, quality education, hunger, and poverty. And when things get hard, I always come back to my why. And I invite you to take a moment to think about your why. Why did you decide to join this program? Why did you decide to join this group today? And why are you interested in serving in your communities? For me, my why is the consequence of what happens if I don't act. These global goals are so challenging that we need everyone pushing forward progress to meet these targets. What happens in our very own communities impacts how we are meeting these important goals globally. There is so much at stake. We all have a responsibility to the world, and this is where you come in. I truly think that young people play such an important role in this moment to step up and act. And by making the commitment to join this community, to join this program, you have made a conscious decision to be part of the change. And I truly believe that those who make social change don't just wake up one day and do so. The leaders I know and admire started small and built their capacity to make change over time. So I just want to take a moment to commend your leadership, your dedication, your passion, and your courage to take this step forward. I can't wait to see where this experience takes you on your changemaker journey. It was through experiences like this program where I felt as though I had the capacity to make change. And it was through experiences like this where I turned my thoughts on how I wanted to change the world into action. I hope to be a collaborator, a resource, a cheerleader, and a friend to you all. So please feel free to reach out at any time at usyouthobserver@unausa.org and follow along at social media at US Youth Observer. In addition, we recently launched a listening tour to connect with youths across America to activate another generation of youth leaders. If you'd like to get involved or learn more, I'll throw some details in the chat. To close, thank you so much to the YMCA team for all they have done to make this community possible, and congratulations to all of you on the great work that you have accomplished. I truly hope that you and your loved ones are taking care and staying safe. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much for joining us, Dustin. Your remarks were incredible. As before, when you were officially introduced to the world as the new UNA Youth Observer back on International Day of the Youth, and I'm just continuously so excited about all the things that you're going to do during your term, and really excited and kind of feeling the pressure to follow your remarks as well. But thank you so much for joining us. It really does mean a lot to the YMCA community and to all of these change makers. And so just for me briefly, I really am so glad that I had the opportunity to be a part of this effort. And it's such an honor to close out the ceremony. You've heard from our esteemed guests from the YMCA of the USA CEO, Kevin Washington, US Senator Cory Booker, and even live from Dustin Liu, the UNA's Youth Observer, on how you can be the change that your community seeks. I've loved the Thursday sessions of moderating your questions, ideas, and feedback to leaders of wonderful civic organizations and opportunities, even from your own peers. The YMCA has always been a home for me. Since my sophomore year, when I joined the YMCA's Youth and Government program, I realized the wide network of opportunities and dedicated leaders to grow and develop with. The most incredible thing about this experience and your future life experiences won't be the accomplishments, titles, or accolades, but the pure joy you feel from knowing that you're making a change in someone else's life. My own Y story has taken me from a small conference in little old Delaware to London to meet international advocates and so many programs in between. It has also taken me to powerful virtual experiences like my final Delaware conference, the YMCA senior commencement, and to hear in front of all of you, the YMCA's Changemakers Institute. I am so excited for the communities that you're all a part of and for the people that you will experience and engage who will experience your passion and your dedication. Mine and your Y stories don't end with program or events because at our core, our stories are our identities. My work with the YMCA will continue as a resource to all of you and as the co-chair of the YMCA's Youth Voter Commitment. I implore you, fellow changemakers, to join this effort in mobilizing youth voters to contribute to this conversation on the local, state, and national change. While our efforts are centered around the 2020 general election, we know that critical change comes from the local city council members, senators, school board members, and governors that you elect. Although this program may be over, your work, friends, projects in this institute will transform this country and your communities. Never forget that where you are, following the words of our CEO, that you are the change that we seek. Stay safe, engaged, involved over the next months and years to come. And I'm so excited to pass it back to the leader of it all, the brain behind this entire institute, Derek Summerville.
Well, thank you so much, Dorcas. And thank you to Dustin. Thank you to Senator Booker. Thank you to President Washington, everyone who has spoken here tonight. and who's joined us virtually over the last 10 weeks. We have reached out to so many different pieces of so many communities around the country. And while I am honored to have worked with all of you, know that without them, without the YMCA staff that made your cohorts possible, make sure you've reached out to them and said thank you. Without the mentors that we connected you with, and by the way, I know many of you have been looking to connect with them, we're going to give you the contact information for both your cohort leaders and your mentors now that we have graduated you out of the program. Please feel free to reach out to them. Find them on safe social media sites like LinkedIn, or you can connect with them professionally and continue. You know, many of you are continuing to use them, not just as mentors, but as networks that will continue your professional academic development and also your changemaker development. They are incredible assets and incredible links in the chain of support that will help you move your projects and move your passion forward. But more importantly, thank you so much to Dorcas and to Lintaro, who have been here every step of the way to help shepherd this. Part of what the Y is slowly learning how to do better is incorporate youth voice into not just our programming, but into the leadership of it. And for those of you who are seniors, you know how much work that Dorcas and Lintaro have put in, not just to the Changemakers Institute, but into our Youth Voter Challenge and into celebrating the class of 2020 after your entire senior spring was upended by everything going on in the world. So thank you for everything you've done. We're going to close today, just like we have every other Institute session that we've run, and that's talking about what is next. Because nothing ever really ends with the Y. And I say that both jokingly, but also seriously. The Y is for all. We are for people we are for young infants that were just born, whose families need support and care, who are using childcare, especially right now, we're the nation's largest provider of emergency childcare in the country. So we work with young people as young as babies all the way up until you are a senior citizen, and you are trying to stay healthy and trying to stay active in your community. A third of our members are over 65. The Y is for all, and we're for all of you whenever you need us. So this is not just a program, it is not just a experience that connects you when you are a middle school student or a high school student or a college student. It continues whenever you need the Y will be there for you. But what is next specifically for those of you who are part of the Institute? So let me explain a little bit about where we're going to go. Your Changemaker certifications, I know I've had a couple of questions about those. Those are going to be sent to all participants who participated in a panel or who have submitted a recorded or written presentation by the end of August. So you'll be getting a certification in the mail from myself and Kevin, letting you know that you have completed this program, that you, under the YMCA's training process, you are a change maker. This is the first step in a professional development path that if you want to end up working for the Y, this is kind of a first step towards what becomes that way. And for everyone else, it's another thing that you can add so people know that you didn't just spend your summer waiting to make a difference, you actually did make a difference. And we hope that you will wear that and promote that with pride as you move forward in both your academic and professional careers. Second, we're going to start a new service called Changemaker Connections. So every Monday, you're going to get a ton of opportunities from us to ensure that you continue to be a change maker. These will be everything from scholarships to grants to social media opportunities to applications that you can apply for, things like the UN Youth Observer, positions that you can take and lead, not just in your communities, but around the country and around the world. We want to use you all as a constant source of feedback. We'll also be using these connections bulletins to do kind of live polling. So throughout the year, we want to do more tracking. We want to figure out what you're feeling right now. Part of the struggle that so many youth serving organizations have is we don't have a constant pulse on what youth are believing and thinking, especially in the moment when the world moves really fast like it does these days. So we're going to be using that to continue to be in touch with you, and also to ensure that if you need support as you move forward on many of your initiatives, that we are there to help. So look for those connections every week. And then finally, as Dorcas mentioned, not only will we have our Youth Voter Challenge, which is our effort to transform the culture around youth voting between not just now and the end of the 2020 election, but for election cycles to come in the future. We're going to be promoting that almost every day. You're going to see our youth in government networks, our Y networks talking more. You're going to get so sick about voting that you're going to want to vote just so we'll stop contacting you. So we're going to be going full force with our challenge. But the other effort that we haven't yet unveiled, which will be coming live in early September, which is only 10 days away now, is our Youth Advocate Network. So we know that many of you are passionate about a whole host of issues. We've seen those issues as part of your projects this summer. But the Y as an institution has some very important policy goals at the local, state, and federal level that we want to push forward. And as Dorcas mentioned, usually we bring a small group of students to DC every year to help promote them. As you probably know, the Y is not expecting to meet in person in DC for quite some time. In fact, just to be completely honest, we're not expecting it to be safe to do that probably till next summer in many cases. So we want to make sure that we are building an advocacy network that is accessible and available to students around the country. So our goal by the end of 2020 will be to identify youth advocates in every single congressional district in the country that are going to help us advocate for youth development, healthy living, and social responsibility. So we're going to be offering that opportunity up to any student that wants to join, including all of you. These will be action steps that you can take on specific bills, on specific state policies, on local initiatives. So they're going to be a little bit different than your Changemaker project that was focused on something you wanted to talk about. These are going to be priorities that have already been established that we need support for. So for those of you who may be a part of our push for nonprofit relief in the spring, this fall, we're going to be talking about a lot of other policies that help ensure our communities are safe, are healthy, and are inclusive to youth. So we'll be sharing more about the Youth Advocate Network through the Changemaker Connections in the coming weeks. But finally, again, for the final time, we want to say thank you. None of this is possible without the work that you've done. None of this is possible without you stepping up and saying, I want to make a difference. We know that every once in a while in American history, there are moments when it doesn't seem possible to sit on the sidelines anymore. That you have to get up, that you have to stand up, and you are looking around saying, I'm in history, I need to do something. And it can be overwhelming. That feeling can feel, it can make you feel so small when compared to the vastness and large problems that we're all facing. But you all this summer stood up and you took those first few steps. And no matter what your initiative was, no matter where you did it, no matter who you worked with, know that the ripples you created this summer will continue to grow into waves that will not just shape your communities, but will shape the future of so many other young change makers that come after you, who will stand on your shoulders and will be thankful for the work you put in to convince your communities that young people are not just the leaders of tomorrow, they are leaders right now. So for a final time, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you so much for being a part of this inaugural Changemakers Institute. We are excited to see where this program grows in the coming years. And we know that your role in what we've done will leave an indelible mark on the history of the YMCA. Have a fantastic evening. Have a great weekend. We look forward to working with you all in the future.